Hi everyone, this is Jackie Cooper with JCooperTravels, Love Travel Scotland, and Crypto Mom 2. I want to welcome everyone back to this episode. Definitely remind you to like and subscribe. There are a lot of great conversations happening. And my guest today, I know that this is the first of many that we're going to be chatting about. As some of you might know, with some of the posts that I've been doing, I am now getting into a different type of travel. I've been traveling as a certified travel agent around the world for many years, and I was recently introduced to the boating and the yachting community, and I'm fascinated with this whole area because I love water and I love the idea of, going from island to island, seeing, just like I like trains, there's places you can see that you just can't see from the car. And it gives you a whole new perspective and vacation type. So I will say that my dog is at my feet and she is starting to require a little attention. And that's going to be interesting for me when I end up getting my own yacht or boat or whatever, however you want to define a catamaran, to be able to take my dog on. It's going to be interesting to see if she's going to have sea legs or not. So that'll be a whole nother story. But today, I went to the little bit more background about myself. I'm an attorney, but I'm also an educator and definitely an entrepreneur. And I went to the Annapolis Boat Show and wandered around and just was, in awe of the various exhibitors, as well as the business aspect of it, and also the variety of individuals that were exploring, as well as the boats that you can enjoy. So I met Laurie, and she is educating me as a newbie on how I can actually finance my dream. And this is the first of many series of conversations that we're going to have, both for those that are new to this world, like myself, as well as those that are more experienced. For those that are into the super yachts, they definitely have more experience at that. And let's see where I am in 4 years down the road. So, Laurie, I want to welcome you to JCooperTravels. And for those that are also listening, I will have all of Laurie's contact information in the blog below, so that way you can reach out to her so she can answer your needs, and also the website. So, Laurie, welcome, and how are you doing today?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today, Jackie. I really appreciate it and look forward to talking a little bit about boats and the fun lifestyle that it is with you.
Yeah. So, why don't you go ahead and share a little bit more about the company that you work with, how it got started, and how you got involved in this niche? Because I know that you have many interests, and we kind of go and kind of land in our career areas, sometimes not the straight and narrow. So, how did you end up in this area?
Very, very true. So I do come from a boating family. I grew up on boats, boating on the Chesapeake Bay with my mom and dad. And I was in a completely different career before this. I was in retail for a long time, and then I worked for a legal software company for several years. And I was approached by someone, a friend of a friend. That's always how it works, right? Uh, they had an opening, a need in a company that did marine financing. And it was close to home. And I'd been traveling a lot with a small child at home. So that wasn't working out too well. So to be able to be close to home and have dinner and bath time every night meant a lot to me. And I wasn't, I can't say my background was finance, but my background was boating. And I actually think that's more important than the finance aspect of it, because I do understand
Yeah.
where these customers are in their life and their excitement level and what they're trying to accomplish for themselves or their family. So that part I totally got. The finance part I learned. So I came on board. At the time, it was called Just Boat Loans. And over the years, I have been doing this for 20 years. About 4 years ago, Just Boat Loans was bought by a bank up in Rhode Island. It's called BankNewport. And then we became OceanPoint Marine Lending. So we have the same team that we always did, except it's expanded a bit. And so, yeah, I've been with OceanPoint Marine Lending now for the past 3.5, 4 years. And we have the backing of BankNewport. BankNewport has been a bank for the last 200 years. So it's a
Wow.
very stable environment, and they are 100% behind our marine division. And we are doing some exciting things, some new innovations coming up for 2023 because of the backing of BankNewport.
I'm excited about that. I know I'm showing the website right now and we're on the blog page. And we're going to be kind of scrolling down and chatting about various pieces that people need to know. And I first want to apologize to anyone in the boating and yachting world. If I use the wrong terminology now, it's because I'm a newbie. Give me a few years and I'll be able to have all the right lingo, but it's like everything else. There's always a vocabulary learning curve. And so, again, if I misspeak, definitely forgive me. So, as a new person looking, I'm overwhelmed by the variety of boats, by the sizes, by the dollar amounts, things like that. So, I know one of the blogs that we're looking at right on screen, and for those that are on the audio side, definitely hop over to the YouTube side and definitely like and subscribe because there's going to be a lot of follow-up on this conversation. Do boat interest loans, do they kind of go up and down just like real estate loans? Or car loans, are they kind of pretty stable, or how does that work?
They don't jump around quite as erratically as mortgage loans and auto loans. So they are a bit more stable. So you could look at it two ways. They're slow to move. So that's great when rates are on the rise, not so great maybe when rates are going down. But they typically don't make big jumps. So in the 20 years that I've been doing this, I think the biggest jump I've seen on a rate increase has been about a half of a point. And usually, banks are not changing their rates every other day, every week. It's more of if we are in a climate that we happen to be in right now, in the past 6 months, then you might see a bank raise their rates maybe every month or every 2 months, just depending on what the Fed is doing. But in a stable economic environment, like we had previously, you could have a bank keep the same rate for a year. They're like maybe even longer. So it really is sort of a more stable environment than you might find in auto loans or even home mortgages.
So when I buy something, like a car, or even a house, there's always a term. So, how, for buying a yacht or a boat, what's the maximum length of time that I can kind of push out all my payments? Because obviously that helps me reduce the monthly, because there's going to be other expenses I'm going to be incurring. So what's the range of boat life loans?
Great question. So that the term is determined by the loan amount.
Ah,
So if your loan amount is above 50,000, then typically we can get a term of 20 years, which is
wow.
surprising to a lot of people.
Wow, yeah.
Um, so you might be thinking more like a 5 or a 7 year term on that, but no, if it's above 50,000, we can get a 20-year term, and that's a fixed rate. So that really does help lower that monthly payment and make this, the boat and the boating lifestyle more affordable. If you are under 50,000, so let's say between 25 and 50,000, then typically your term is going to be 15 years. And then when you drop below 25,000, that's when you start seeing 12-year and 10-year terms.
So are these loans normally fixed rates or are they adjustable?
Most of the time, it's a fixed rate. There are programs out there. They are usually for loan amounts that are above 100,000.
Hmm.
There are some adjustable programs out there, like fixed for the first 3 or 5 years, and then it goes to an adjustable program, that kind of thing. But 99% of the time, it's really not advantageous to take that adjustable program. The difference between that adjustable rate and the fixed rate is just not big enough to justify the risk that comes with an adjustable rate program. So again, the majority of our loans are all fixed rate programs.
That makes sense. So the next blog for those that are not on the visual side is about down payments and just like with the house, sometimes you can um, do something where it's no down payment down, but usually with
Mhm.
boat loans, what's the expectation, or is there a way to do it where you have nothing down?
So again, I'm going to say that the answer to that is determined by the loan amount.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start on the high end. If you are $150,000 ish, 150 to 200,000 uh, and above on the price of the boat, then your standard down payment requirement by any bank is usually going to be 20%. If you are below 150,000, then banks might be looking for 15% down. If you're below 100,000, then we could be looking at 10% down. And if you're below 100,000 and the value of the boat, which is determined by the bank and the surveyor, the value of the boat is really strong. There are some instances that we can get 100% financing. So that would be
Wow.
zero down. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It depends on the bank. Not all banks will allow that, but there are some out there that will consider that. So something to keep in mind.
Does it depend, you said it depends upon the surveyor. What about on the credit score of the purchaser?
That could have an impact on it as well. So the higher the credit score, the easier it is for the bank to feel comfortable with a lesser down payment.
Yeah. Now, in terms of surveying the boat, I always thought that the value of the boat was set by either the manufacturer, if it's a new boat, or possibly, well, I guess I'm thinking through this, the owner is probably just no different than piece of real estate property. You need an appraiser if it's not a new boat. Um, so are those appraisals expensive, and what do they look for?
So to go back real quick here to the value of the boat, there are different ways to sort of put a value on a boat, and none of them are 100% accurate. So I'll put that caveat in there. So banks are looking at boats that are other boats that are the same year, make, and model of the boat that you're considering, and what are the list prices of those boats. Then there are some value guide websites and books that are available to banks, to boat brokers, to dealers, and if you are a subscriber, a member of that company, then you can also have access to this data. But there are some value guides out there where you can look up the year, make, and model and the engine information, and they sort of give you a current value for that boat. Again, not 100% accurate, but it's at least something for the bank to look at and gauge. And then you have uh, your surveyor. So it's like a home inspector, but it's a marine surveyor, and they come and take a look at the boat. Um, they are also looking at all those guidebooks and websites that would help determine the value. And then they're also determining the condition of the boat. Is it average? Is it fair? Is it above average? Is it Bristol? What additional equipment is on board? So they're taking that into consideration. and then they're going to give you a dollar value that they come up with, taking all those factors into account. So that's probably the best valuation method, is that surveyor, and they vary in cost. It's usually done by the foot. So however many feet your boat is, let's say you're looking at a 30-foot boat, that cost would be by the foot. And I have seen anywhere from, $15 a foot to $28 a foot. I think it depends on, the type of boat, the complexity of the boat, and that kind of thing. The surveyor may also charge for travel time if you're asking him to go to a different state for the survey, that kind of thing. So it is a sort of wide varying fee structure.
Are there a lot of surveyors out there, and would I have to find my own, or does the bank provide it and then I just pay for it?
So you would find your own, and that is because the bank does not want to have any influence on that surveyor. It should be, completely your decision and your comfort level on that. There are surveyors everywhere in every state, and there are some websites that will provide names and phone numbers and contact information of certified surveyors, which is what a bank would require. It's probably what you would want to use too as a consumer. One website is SAMS, and SAMS, and that is the Society of, American Marine Surveyors. I think that's what it stands for. And then the other one is NAMS, NAMS, and that is the National Association of Marine Surveyors. I think I got both those right.
That's okay.
Anyway, either.
Yeah, I'll make sure that the links are provided as well.
All right, great. Either one of those websites would, they're very easy to navigate. It's by region and then state and location. And then you can even like drill down on sailboat versus powerboat, that kind of thing. Very easy to find. What I usually recommend to my customers is to call a few and just have a conversation with them. Ask them for a copy of an example of one of their survey reports. They're very different. So they all have their own version of the survey report, the actual written report. And I've seen them be 7 pages long, and I've seen them be 50 pages long. So they're all very different. So it's nice to get sort of like an example, and to see if that's what you'd be looking for on your survey.
So is it really what I would be looking for, or is it what I think the bank might want? Are there certain requirements that you're looking for?
Yeah, if they're a certified surveyor, that report is definitely going to, check all the boxes and to make sure the bank is happy with it. These surveyors are certified. They've been around for a while, so they know exactly what the bank is looking for.
So if I was to approach you and say, I found my dream boat and it's a certain dollar range, what would the steps be for my applying for a loan? And I'm asking this question even though I think I already know the answer. Like, is there a certain income to debt ratio that you're looking for, or how do you determine, who can actually afford this type of loan?
So my first advice really would be to find a finance representative and have a conversation with them. I think that's probably the most important step that you can take, to actually talk to a real person. It's so easy these days just to jump on the internet and try to find information on your own. But it's there's so many different factors that are involved. The boat itself, the age of the boat, where you're boating, your boating experience. So many factors come into play that it really is just best for any customer to find a finance representative and just give them a call and have a conversation. They're going to know what questions to ask you. And then you're going to be able to ask those questions. My answer to your debt to income ratio question might be different on a $25,000 boat loan versus a $200,000 boat loan.
Yeah.
So we can drill down on those details and make those answers more specific to your situation. So I guess that's my first piece of advice. The factors that the bank is looking at, and I'll speak generally here for any boat loan, debt to income ratio is one of them. So it's great that you brought that up already. They typically want to see the debt to income ratio at 40% or below. They're looking at gross income, not net income. So that's something important to consider. They're really only counting debt that would show up on your credit report. So rent or mortgage, car payments, credit card bills, that kind of thing. They're not counting things like utility bills or phone bills or things like that. They will include the new boat payment. So that is something that people forget a lot of times when they're calculating their own debt to income ratio, is they're forgetting to add in that new boat payment.
Mm-hmm.
So taking all that and dividing it by your gross monthly income, the bank would want to see that number come in at 40% or below. They are also looking at credit scores. So your best rates are going to be for credit scores that are above 800. Then if you're above 740, you're still really good to go. If you're above 720, you're still in your standard boat loan rates. But we also have banks that will drop below that 720. They'll go to 680. I've got a bank that will even consider as low as 650. So the terms might be a little bit different on those lower credit scores, but it's still possible. Another thing that they might be looking at is comparable credit history. So if you're looking for a $300,000 boat loan, have you had a loan of that size in your past? Maybe it's a mortgage or something like that. That comes more into play on the higher dollar boats. Not, if it's under 100,000, that's not much of a factor, but something to consider if you are thinking about, a higher price boat. Let's see, we talked about credit score, comparable credit history, debt to income ratio. Those are probably the biggest points right there.
So the other thing that you and I were talking about offline before we started recording was something that I have on the screen right now is about Coast Guard documentation. So does that happen before I apply for a loan or after, or sort of simultaneous?
It's after, and the process for that really takes place during your closing, during your settlement. So whatever finance company you would choose to go with, they either have an in-house documentation company and they handle that for you in-house as part of your loan process, or they are working with like an outside Coast Guard agency. And in either case, all that paperwork and that process is going to take place at settlement. And that once you close on the boat and you are the owner, then that paperwork is submitted to the Coast Guard and processed by the Coast Guard, and then you receive your Coast Guard document, which is a manner of ownership. So it's just like a state title, except it's on a federal level versus a state level.
So again, the answer might vary, but from start to finish, usually, is it like 90 days? Is it 60 days, 120 days? Usually, what's the time frame?
So a good timeline to just keep in the back of your head is once you found the boat and you've got your financing order, you've got your loan approval, then typically your standard purchase agreement, your standard contract, gives you 30 days to then close on that boat. So that gives you 30 days to call surveyors, get a surveyor scheduled, have the survey done, get the survey report, and then usually we can go to settlement and close within a week to 10 days after getting that survey report to the bank. So it's a pretty quick process. The longest part of that process is getting the survey scheduled and getting the survey report back. But
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So usually when people are doing this, do they have their own attorneys kind of look at the various contracts, or how does that work?
typically not. No, it's very, very rare that we have an attorney involved. It's
Interesting.
usually a broker,
Okay.
a yacht broker. And I would recommend using a certified yacht broker in anyone's case. For a buyer, uh, there's no negative to using a yacht broker. They are there for you. You're not paying them any sort of fee to work for you. They are there to just help you find the right boat to fit your needs. And I think that's a really important um, aspect of their job, is really narrowing down what you're looking for, what your use of the boat, what you want it to be, where you might be taking it. So they really do help in that area. But then they also help navigate you through the offer process, the contract, what stipulations should be in the contract. Then they help navigate you through that survey report. They're going to help you explain some of the things that are in that survey report. And should there be any sort of price adjustment, should the seller be um, addressing any of the issues that came up in the survey report before you buy the boat? Or is it something that you want to take care of on your own after you purchase? So that yacht broker can really walk you through all of those steps. And then they are there to help with that closing process between the seller and the buyer. There's paperwork that we provide, the transfer of ownership paperwork, as well as your loan paperwork. But that broker is there to help with that. If there is no broker, and it's a private sale, we work with those all the time as well. Again, typically not an attorney involved. It is just sort of a private sale. The two of you come up with your own contract. It's signed by both parties. The bank gets a copy of it. But typically then your finance person will, help you walk through those final steps to settlement of, figuring out what those costs are, what's due to the seller, um, those sort of factors along with it.
I know that with buying a house, you have to have home insurance. So is that the same with the boat? Well, when you are in this process, and for everyone who's listening, I'm going to be interviewing brokers. I'm going to be interviewing all the different pieces of our community that we've been talking about. So that's why I want you to kind of like and subscribe so you can hear more from those that are involved. So on the insurance side, what do you have to consider?
So that again, that would be my first recommendation and advice would be to call an insurance agent, especially if you're a new boat buyer. If you're just looking into getting into this great lifestyle, then that should be a phone call that you make. Um, and the reason being is the bank is going to require, if you are financing, the bank is going to require that you insure the boat and provide a binder or a declarations page, verification that it's insured at the time of closing. So before any funds are released. So questions that you might want to ask your insurance agent, you want to know what the premium might be so you can factor that into your budget. That insurance agent is going to ask you questions like, what's your experience? So you might have a lower premium if you've got some boating experience behind you. And if you don't have that boating experience and you're trying to maybe buy, a larger boat, they may have some advice for you on maybe some, classes you could take or online classes or things of that nature that could help bring your premium down because you are a new boater. So
Yeah.
great advice to talk to an insurance agent. They can really help out there.
I know that thinking about creating teams of people who help you when you're in a new situation is really important because there's so much that we don't know, and there's always someone in the field that's experienced that can say, "Don't forget this. You need to do this." So I'm, being new to this, I keep thinking, okay, when I bought my house, what did I need? So I'm applying that same knowledge base to, the idea of a yacht. The only difference is this might not be from a closing perspective, but from the insurance perspective, something else that I want to look at once I have my new marine place is health insurance. Again, if I'm traveling on the water and I'm not near my traditional abode, again, things happen. And as a travel agent, I know the importance of travel insurance. So I'm
Hmm.
assuming that there's, equal insurance product that's out there from the medical perspective. So if you happen to be in the Caribbean, but you're not, where you normally would be, you can still get the health care you need.
There are different policies out there for that. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you are planning on doing that type of cruising, then that is definitely something you'd want to look into for sure. And there's many options out there.
Yeah. So I know that you and I are going to have more than one conversation. I definitely want to mention to everyone the phone number, the website will then be in the blog below. But Laurie, why don't you go ahead and share how people can reach out to you? And that way, if they do have paper and pen, they can write it down.
Sure. So the company is OceanPoint Marine Lending. My name is Laurie Kiser, and you can find me on that website, but you can also just contact me by email or phone. So my email address is laurie.kiser@banknewport.com, and I'll spell that for you. It's LAURIE.KISER@banknewport.com. And the best way to reach me is my cell phone, and that number is 443-223-8425.
Yeah. So are you going to be at any of the upcoming boat shows that people can kind of just stop by the booth and check it out and talk to you about it?
I am. I'm so excited. The next boat show I'm going to be at is in March. It's at the Palm Beach Boat Show in West Palm Beach. It's a great boat show. It's probably one of my favorite. Um, Great selection of boats, really high energy, good vibe there. We will have a booth right at the main entrance as you come in. So it's Ocean Point Marine Lending booth. You should see us there. I will definitely be there at the booth or walking around the entire time. So I'd love to say hi to some people and answer any questions people might have.
Yeah, so if for everyone who's listening, if you end up going to any of these shows, because that's just one of many that I know Laurie will be at, and you've learned about her and the company from our show, definitely let her know that, because we always like to, hear feedback and everything else like that. Um, any last minute thoughts for this new process for someone who's just getting into this great world? What would you recommend, or what do you suggest?
Um, well, first of all, I can't recommend it enough. I am a boater myself. I love it. I've been a boater since I was a kid, and there's just no other feeling that you get from being out there on the water. It's a lifestyle. It's just something that you can't get anywhere else. A vacation home or uh, just your regular week vacations that you get with your family. This is something that is a lifestyle, and it once people get bit by the boating bug, it's a forever thing. It's a forever love story. And I guess my biggest piece of advice, what I said earlier, is really just to have those conversations with whether it's a yacht broker or a finance representative, and because there are so many different factors, so many variations of situations, and it really is just best to have that conversation with someone, and they can really help you out.
Yeah, and I highly recommend, everyone give Lori a call. She definitely is the best in terms of education and information. So, again, it's always great to have someone who's experienced on a team, especially when you're just starting out. Everyone definitely like and subscribe. And as I always say on all my shows, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We're all so interconnected. We're all part of one world. And have a great day. Thank you, Lori. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jackie, so much.